1996. I'll never forget it. It was the first year of experiencing good horrors and bad horrors like the discontinuation of Mr. Peanut's PB Crisps. But, it was the year when many legends were born, such as Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, Quake, and Dead or Alive, to name a few. Around the year of 96, most existing franchises transitioned over to the 3D realm like Mario Bros. But to the fighting game community, this was the year of a new KOF competition sponsored by numerous corporations, yes, including VetroCorp and Tekken, but only in the Chinese moniker, already explained in a separate video. The King of Fighters 96 is another improvement in this series. Mostly all the problems I had with the previous two had been fixed. This time, the roster is increased, new gameplay feats are added, and endings are pretty cool. Let's start things off by analyzing the combatants. Ryo Sakazaki and Robert Garcia are back with most of their iconic moves. They felt the same, which is great because I never found a problem with either characters in the past. It's thanks to these two that I was able to beat the incredibly broken hero team in KOF 94. This time, Mr. Karate himself is no longer competing, and his daughter Yuri Sakazaki takes his place. I like this since I couldn't get into playing as Takuma myself. He had a short reach with his basic attacks, he didn't even have any mid-air specials like Ryo and Robert, and it didn't help that the command inputs for his ultimate were irritating to pull off. Yuri is an enjoying character to play as, but some of her previous iconic moves have been replaced. If you ask me, I prefer her old specials and basic attacks. No other character would use the pelvic thrust. That attack was thick, as in strong. Her new specials take long enough to give the opponent a chance to see it coming, and since they take a while, then you can't really connect them into a combo either. Her ultimate is no longer that annoying input of forward, half circle back with 2 buttons pressed. Now it's just quarter circle forward, half circle back, kick. That's it. And the beauty of her ultimate is that she dashes across the screen and kicks the hell out of the opponent's face. The Psycho Soldier team felt like an improvement. I'm starting to get into this team. Same goes for the Fatal Fury team and the women's team. Well, they've been great since the beginning. Now that Yuri is on the Art of Fighting team, Kasumi has replaced her, and she's a great character since her speciality is countering most of the time. Her ultimate is not the best. I was hoping to see more from her max ultimate, something like a complicated Ip Man combination. But it's no different from her regular ultimate, which is just slightly a bigger version of her special called Kasane Ate. It's not that the move is useless, it's actually quite useful as a mid-air attack, but as a spectacle special, it's got a short range and it's quite boring to look at. That's it. Yori is back with a whole new team. I forgot to mention something that always bugged me about Yori Yagami. Why does he have this leash connected to both pant legs? How is it useful? I don't see a single way that it could become useful. I mean, it's not like he needs it to strangle someone with his legs. I could just think of all the many ways that this could screw someone over. Not to mention the fact that you can't perform high kicks because you'll just trip yourself by trying to do a high kick. That's gotta be why he tries performing a two-legged kick, right? He knows he's gonna hit the ground, so might as well perform it as low as possible to the ground. Since Yori ended up betraying his two partners by the end of KOF 95, both Billy and Eiji would not appear in the next tournament. So Yori got himself two fine-ass fighters to participate with in this tournament, Mature and Vice. Mature has a special that can be connected into a three-hit combo just like with Yuri, similar to his special. Her other specials are all very useful, and that ultimate of hers is always worth performing. It's a spectacle, alright. As for Vice, they only gave her 3 specials and a very difficult ultimate to pull off. Heck, I think she's the only one that deserves to call her ultimate a desperate move, because you gotta be really desperate to attempt to pull it off when most of your opponents will always have a much easier way to attempt their ultimate. She has a special kick that can be performed mid-air, but it never felt like it ever became useful every time I utilized it. Both female characters have a similar fighting style, and it's a bit awkward, but it gets the job done, I guess. The hero team is aight. Now that we can easily perform short and long jumps, Benimaru was a great character to play as in KOF 96. He's the perfect grasshopper. I still couldn't get into playing as Daimon, but I'm glad that at least Benimaru can be a useful character to me. Although they definitely reduced the range of his ultimate. Perhaps the devs did this since he has that leaping advantage, long reach on basic attacks, and faster kicks than everyone else. On to the Korean team. I like him in this game. A few annoying basic attacks are still intact, but again, thanks to being able to run and leap at different ranges, this character just feels flexible again and fun to play as. I love Taekwondo, so this character is by default one of my mains. Another thing I love is his ultimate. It's easy to pull off. It's a badass combo ultimate as well, which I prefer more over a giant projectile as an ultimate. And it can even be performed in mid-air. Even if you don't land it, it's good to pull off because when you're back against the wall, this is a good way to get out of it. Chang is a great character. I wasn't expecting to enjoy playing as him now. He's like the opposite of Choi, since Choi is small, his attacks are lower, and he's a hell of a light character. And Chang is heavy, slow, but packs one hell of a punch with the iron ball. Most of the time, his heavy attacks would always land on the opponent in mid-air. The way the AI works is by trying to counter the human player's commands, so there are ways to find a sort of loophole against that analogy. And Chang's heavy attack range in mid-air is quite long and deals great damage, so short hopping and utilizing his heavy attack can work in your favor since the AI will try to counter it, which always fails against that particular attack. So if you want to breeze through most fights in the arcade ladder, start with Chang and chances are you won't have to bust out with the other two characters against the AI. Also, Chang's ultimate is not difficult to pull off, so that's another plus. Choi can now perform the soaring kick in midair. I'm guessing Kim taught him this move since it's one of his iconic specials. And since this game includes running and leaping at short and long distances, Choi is able to bounce all over the stage, either jumping around or even with a special move that can be controlled in midair. He's even more OP than before, especially since he's the short fellow that does not need to fear any high kicks or punches. I don't like the command inputs to pull off his ultimate though. It's the same problem with my favorite character, Clark's ultimate, which is forward half circle back again, and punch. Even with the D-pad I have problems pulling that off. But with Clark it's even more difficult because you have to do this in front of the opponent, like just touching distance. Only the really good players can pull this off with ease, meaning I have a long way to go. Speaking of Clark, he's still great to play as. His grab specials are a little more balanced, which means it won't be as easy as before to connect those throws. Sadly. But it's understandable, I guess.
What the You literally reached out, how'd you not grab him there?
This time, he does not perform the Gatling attack like Ralph, but they did include an additional attack connecting with his throw specials. This makes him even more fun to play as. Ralph is just as awesome as he was in the previous tournament. I love his ultimate, especially his max ultimate. You'll want to pull it off every time for the spectacle and bodying the hell out of the opponent. Heidern does not return, but that ain't bad, because in his place, we now have his adopted daughter, Leona Heidern. This is her first introduction to the series, and a very welcoming one at that. It doesn't take a lot of practice to get used to this character. You'll get a good understanding of how she plays quicker than others. But I didn't like that her ultimate can only be pulled off in midair. I wish it was an option like with Kim's ultimate, and the commands to execute it usually left Leona nearly touching the floor, which doesn't give her enough distance to connect it with an opponent, since the higher you are when executing it, the further she reaches. Also, like with most new characters to a fighting game, she has a special move that can be rather OP. Her Baltic Launcher special will do a good chunk of damage, and it leaves the opponent stunned in place, allowing for an additional attack. I usually connect it with a heavy attack, so in the end, if you pull it off 2 more times, you win the fight. That simple. Mr. Big joins Krauser and Father Geese, creating the Boss Team.
Krauser.
Mr. Big, husband of Mrs. Thick, was the sub-boss for the first Art of Fighting game. Geese was the first boss in the Fatal Fury series, and even the boss of the second Art of Fighting game. Krauser was the boss for Fatal Fury 2, so we have 2 bosses and a sub-boss for a team. Seeing as Mr. Big has a pair of special rattan sticks as his primary weapons, then it would have been great to see Billy Kane as a playable character in KOF 96, possibly turning the two into rivals since they're both the only characters to wield a weapon in KOF so far, and they both usually side next to the boss. But Billy wasn't included in this game as a playable character, so we'd have to wait a little longer until we got the 2 characters included in the same game. The stages in this game are both good and slightly bad. I say bad because 3 stages are reused, but only one of those made some valid differences. The final boss stage. But I like the way it's reused because everything gets destroyed and we get to fight in it as a blistering wind blows bits and pieces of the arena away. The Fatal Fury stage is reused for the Art of Fighting stage, and as you can see, the Fatal Fury version is more vibrant. The colors pop, especially with the first round, and it's got a bright blue morning sky. It even includes many cameos from the Fatal Fury series, such as Tung Fu Rue, aka Roshi, Jubei Yamada, Sokaku Mochizuki, and my favorite of all, to which I only wish had made the roster for this game, Blue Mary. But as for the Art of Fighting version of the stage, it has an ugly paint job with the weather, and it only gets worse after each round. Nothing pleasant to look at. There are no spectators besides your teammates and your opponent's teammates, and there's one guy. I'd say the only good thing about this reuse of a stage is the background music. It's kind of catchy. The Hero team and the Psycho Soldier team share the same stage. Well, they reuse the same stage, but I say they share it because the only difference is with the crowd up front and the electronic billboards. The Psycho Soldier team has a lot of fans. There's a guy on the far left dressed up like Terry Bogard does in KOF 2003. I wonder if this has any connections towards it. Looks like this guy just got dumped. I think his ex dumped him and she did it for this guy. Look how happy they are. Aww. Couldn't ask for a better day to watch 6 jabronis duking it out in public. The Korean stage looks wonderful. You have this water stream with its pixelated glory with a reflection of the building in the center of the stage. There's a big enough crowd to spectate the fight. Kind of reminds me of Mexico stadiums or public arenas with the floor looking all uneven and choppy. I love it. The Ikari team stage is a noteworthy location. I like that it takes place under a broken down bridge. I don't quite understand why the ground moves this way. Maybe it's floating on water? Either way, I still enjoy the looks of it. It's so detailed and urban. You even have people spectating from a very far distance, so it's cool to see these tiny little pixelated spectators. The boss team stage is another great location. Reminds me of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, where you're in a little boat starting the ride and there's a restaurant right next to the water. Looks fantastic. When you go up against the boss team in the arcade run, each boss character gets his own theme song when it's their turn. And in the background, you see Billy and Geese's agents Ripper and Hopper watching the fight. The Pow Pow Cafe is the women's stage, and it includes King's waitress friends in the background. They'll cheer for the women's team and react to their wins and losses. Ryohaku Toto can be seen in the background if his daughter Kasumi is fighting. He'll react to both her wins and losses. Since this game is an improvement with the AI opponents and most special moves, you won't need to come up with a specific tactic to beat the AI opponents, except for the boss and sub-boss, of course. But I will point out some of the weaknesses I found for most new characters in the game, like with the boss team. Each member has a simple weakness. For Mr. Big, just keep a distance, jab at that distance. This will trigger his cross-diving attack, which at a distance it will not hit you, but it will leave him wide open. This is when you strike fast, strike hard, no mercy, sir. Krauser will dominate you if you're near him, but spamming a special projectile move at a sweeping distance will almost always land on him.
Which ball? Kaiser, hey! Which ball?
Geese will counter almost every move, which deals a good amount of damage as well. So use a character with a projectile attack and get the advantage, seeing as he won't attempt to block most of it. I think precise timing might be the only trick, but it's not too difficult, so surely you'll pull it off. Chizuru.
She is a sub-boss for this game. She's just as broken as your typical KOF boss fight, spamming this combo connecting uppercut. She also has a couple ultimates, but she likely won't use them since her spamming special will do the deed after pulling it off about, what, 3 times? Alright, check this shit out. Let's see. Punched her in the jaw. Yeah! Alright, so that's the trick. Oh, damn, she has a good reach. Ooh, but so does he. Ah! Woo! Oh my god. This is like fighting Goro. Oh god. Get back. Ah! Ugh. Damn. Okay, right there I should have done it. Let's see if I can do this. Oh! Gotta love how she's dancing after winning, but does it while looking angry. You ever seen anyone dance with a frown?
There are a couple tricks to give you a quick chance to strike her. The easiest is by performing a long jump over her, and once your character is right above her, perform a jab in midair. This usually triggers her annoying upward special, which leaves her back open for a free shot. This is when I recommend you perform your character's ultimate, but only if your character has a rushing ultimate like with Kim Kafwan. The other trick is by keeping a sweeping distance from her. Jab, and then she should perform a short hop towards you. Here is when you strike again. So you'll be able to hit her once, but it's much riskier this way, so I always recommend the first option. Since you have 3 characters against her alone, it shouldn't be a problem taking her down, especially once you get the hang of it.
Oh fuck! Get her! I need to do this instead. Oh fuck! Get back, get back. Get the fuck back. Oh god, now she's leaping. Oh no. Got him. Oh what? Oh, I saw what she did though. I think she has 2 different versions of that move. Cause she looked like she was ducking. No, I gotta finish her off with an ultimate, dude. Damn it! She didn't do it. Got her. Oh man.
Goenitz. This dude is surprisingly the easiest boss you'll ever encounter. That is, of course, if you stick to this simple strategy. All you have to do is keep a far distance from him, perform a quick jab or 2. This will make Goenitz perform his Yonokaze tornado move, which they won't reach you as long as you're at the far end of the screen. Then he'll begin charging his meter bar. This is when you immediately long jump towards him and land a heavy attack in midair. Then quickly jump back to the far end of the screen and taunt repeatedly so that it drains his meter bar. He'll then perform his tornado move again, and this is when you just rinse and repeat the process. That's it. Easiest victory you'll get. Heck, I'd say this is easier than the fight against Chizuru.
You deadly wench! You drank my water. Oh shit, did you see that? Yeah, dude. Oh man. Yuri, that was badass. No! Oh, damn, did you see that damage? Damn, bro. Oh wow, he's locked. Oh fuck. Get back. No, man. Oh no, no, no. Oh, damn it. Okay, okay. Another way. Oi. Charge this up. No, I don't need to charge up. Oh, you bitch up there in the middle. Oh, damn, man. 4 seconds. Damn. I act like I'm the one throwing that freaking attack. Oh, man. Alright. Get back. Get back. Oh, damn, you landed it. Never so sure. should I do instead? Because I know I could beat him just by... Oh man! Oh, good! In like the last second right there, I managed to knock him out. I didn't think it would, because he usually counters that. Yeah.
One thing I don't talk about in these KOF game reviews is the story. Yeah, I know it's something I should mention from the start, but it's kinda hard to be invested in the story when it mainly concentrates on Yuri and Kyo. They may be the main characters of the KOF series, but they're some of the most boring characters in the series. To me, I can't seem to get invested in them at all. I'm more interested in every other character, but since these KOF games don't include a type of prologue for each team, we can only see their endings, and even though there are comics and other stuff that explains what each team did before the tournament, it's not mentioned here, and this is mainly about reviewing what is presented here. So the least I can do is talk about the team endings. I think they're an improvement in presentation. Most teams are unaware of the whole Orochi power situation, and they're just there to win the tournament. So they either end in a comical sort of way, or for the lucky ones, we get a little character development. The ones that were part of the canonical story were pretty interesting. In the rival team ending, the Rite of the Blood ends up awakening within Yuri, and he suddenly just brutally murders his own teammates. And apparently this turns out to be canon. So Vice and Mature were new characters to the series, but they were killed off in the same game that made them playable? That's a hell of a twist. And it's the second time that Yuri turns on his own teammates. What a bastard. There are even a couple secret endings. One for Goenitz, and another for an edit team that consists of Kyo, Yuri, and Chizuru. I'm glad they did this because I love secrets in fighting games, and this specific team led to a great experience. So good that I didn't even have a single loss in the arcade run. Let's talk about the pros and cons. This is the KOF game that finally allowed us to run and dodge roll, two of my favorite mechanics in a fighting game, as it can really intensify a good match. Most of the stages not only look good, but the background music is very enjoyable to listen to, especially when taking on the boss team in the arcade run. I'd say this game's soundtrack is one of the top 5 best KOF game soundtracks for sure. I also love that when your meter bar is full and your life bar is nearly depleted and blinking, you can perform a max desperation move instead of a regular desperation. I'm just going to call them ultimates and max ultimates instead of desperation moves, because sometimes you're not desperate to pull them off, you just want to show off because they're dope as fuck. The previous 2 KOF games also featured a max ultimate, but since those 2 made ultimates difficult to pull off, and KOF 95 included that ridiculous damage cheat with the AIs, I don't recall once being able to execute a max ultimate in KOF 94 and 95, but here, it's perfect. You no longer have to press 2 buttons at the same time after the directional inputs, and all ultimates were executed almost every time I tried them. It's something that was an issue with the first KOF game, and some character ultimates in KOF 95. After image jumps, both long and short leaps are now easier to pull off as well. This helps to get you away from a sticky situation, or to approach your opponent with some full offense. You can also block in midair, so since you can now run, jump far, and block in midair, you get these intense matches even against the computer AI. Before, it used to feel like a mental challenge against the AI, having to figure out a loophole around its programmed defenses, but now, the AI feels more balanced. Now for the cons, Yuri and King no longer have their outfits torn in a special hit knockout. I know! It was devastating when I found out. I didn't like the reuses of the stages except for the boss and sub boss stage. And I think that's it. After playing the crap out of this game, I did get burnt out, but there aren't really any big issues here. Maybe certain characters have an overpowered special such as Leona and Chizuru, but nothing to really complain about. Overall, the AI feels more balanced than in the previous KOF games. It learns and even knows how to duke you. I'm really hoping to find some unique differences and new features for KOF 97 and the following titles. Because from what I remember, the next games in the series start feeling like small DLC packs from one another. Sometimes they upgrade stuff, and sometimes they downgrade them. My biggest problem when it comes to the next KOF games is when basic attacks for a certain character end up being altered. Because you want to take the skills you've learned from the previous games with you, but you can't when their basic attacks are no longer the same. The only upside to this is that it sort of forces you to play as a new character, or learn the new basics. I love how endings can include alternate colors that you chose for your characters. You know what's crazy? The King of Fighters 95 and 96 were ported to the Game Boy. Regular old Game Boy Pocket, not color. And I shit you not when I say, they're some of the most impressive early portable fighting games that I have ever played. I'll talk more about those in a separate KOF video. Maybe the next. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. I got a long way to go if I intend on playing and reviewing the current KOF game, which is KOF 15. Now I'm barely on 96. Damn. You gotta concentrate. Concentrate. Lift some steaks. Eat some wings.
That's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to give this video a chance to grow. I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters for their impeccable generosity. Your support means a lot to me, and you are part of the reason why I try to make the best content that I can. And if you like this content, check out the rest of my channel. You'll find more entertainment from separate franchises I like to cover, such as Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, Celebrity Deathmatch, Men in Black, The Mask, Batman comics, The Terminator, TMNT, Dino Crises, Resident Evil, and more. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out my exclusive videos such as the Gantz content. And if you'd like to show your support, go to my Patreon and support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.